Good morning again, and welcome to my office, as the subject this morning is an unholy alliance. It's a little more dark than usual, but I think that if you listen carefully, you'll get the idea. If you don't, you're certainly free to ask me concerning anything that I say in this video. There is a hymn that was often sung during my youth entitled "Onward, Christian Soldiers." One of its phrases speaks of marching as to war with the cross of Jesus going on before. I never realized a war going on in any sense. But then this was the 1950s, the zenith of religious affirmation in America. Had we been able to look into our present world, we might have discovered Christian soldiers to be actually in a combative struggle, not against unseen forces, but a movement of the disenfranchised, expressing a growing antagonism, inflamed through conspiracies and fueled by a common distrust of which it sees the government now as a treacherous and formidable enemy. Its mission seemingly determined to reestablish a wayward nation back to its Christian roots by the use of political pressure and with the certainty of a divine mandate to do so. But what lies beneath this conflict, which has only come about in recent decades? I ask that because in the 50s, church and state had become best of friends. In his book entitled "One Nation Under God," Kevin Kruse investigated what he deemed as the myth of a Christian nation, and with sufficient documentation revealed that because FDR's New Deal had threatened industry and the American way of life, industrial leaders enlisted a popular congregational minister to spread the word that such welfare policies would destroy not only responsible living, but bring a spiritual darkness to the land. Pastors in that day could do what industrialists were not trusted to do, and that was to persuade with credibility the necessity of voting in the right candidates. In time, an unknown evangelist by the name of Billy Graham was gaining momentum and caught the eye of industry, who then invested heavily into his evangelistic campaigns. So as Graham presented the gospel amidst warnings of communism and moral decadence, industry leaders in turn gained the advantage of ensuring that what's good for the spirit was good for the economy. This culminated under the presidency of Dwight Eisenhower, and during his time in office, it's interesting to note that "In God We Trust" was declared our national motto, with "Under God" added to the Pledge of Allegiance. Yes, of course, it was a wonderful time to live. It was the zenith of moral life in America, of which 80% believed the Bible as the Word of God, although most probably could not name one book in it. But this cozy relationship could not last, for in time the issues of prayer in public schools, leading to abortion, etc., would tear asunder their relationship. This is just as Augustine once wrote that the city of man and the city of God have totally different motives and goals in mind. Wherein the city of God was moved to love, enjoy, and joyfully express that love, the city of man uses the church towards selfish ambitions. Now I say all this to expose what unwittingly became an unholy union between church and state. I say unholy due to the fact that such a relationship was never ordained by God. Just as Jesus declared that his kingdom was not of this world, so it needs to be understood that the church is not of this world. It exists in the world to pursue the privilege of spreading the gospel, standing against evil, doing good, respecting, and praying for all governing officials without taking up the prerogatives of power, force, and hostility. In fact, previously the church had existed as if resting softly and almost unnoticed across the land, yet providing salt and light that in time influenced the minds of the nation. But this unholy codependent relationship merely produces a growing hostility by those who mutually believe they have been betrayed by the other. And those who find themselves compelled to harness the government through power of intimidation prove to be actually bonded to it in such a way that reveals their own livelihood, prosperity, security, and spirituality have unwittingly become dependent upon it. Their internal strife suffocates their joy and separates them from blessed fellowship, just as Jesus declared that a house divided cannot stand. However, the church is truly free, and it proves its freedom when it rests its trust and finds its joy in God alone. Just as Paul wrote, completing my joy, being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. To lose sight of Christ and his church at rest will leave you fighting desperately for your life in this world. But if Christ alone is your hope and joy, then you can join in the last verse of Onward, Christian Soldiers, singing, all one body we, one hope and doctrine, one in charity.